because that relationship was fractured, it actually impacts all of your other relationships in the future. Until. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube machine. I'm Cheryl Muir and I'm the relationship pattern interrupter. This week we're going to talk about the 5 dating drama archetypes. These are the patterns and themes that I've noticed as being the most common in men and women who really struggle with the relationships, right? So with these archetypes, you may see yourself in all of them. You may see yourself in some of them. You may see yourself in just one of them. Or you may see yourself in absolutely none of these archetypes. All of that is completely fine. These archetypes really are there to help you to recognize your own patterns or to recognize what your patterns are not. What they're not here to do though is for you to hear the archetype and to go, oh, I know someone that's just like that. Because it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to be like, oh, I've got that friend Becky who's always doing that. I mean, it's interesting, sure, but we're talking about you. So what I really challenge you to do is to see where you fit in any of these archetypes. If you don't fit anywhere, then write down which archetype would I be and design your own. You know, I'm not religious with this model that I created. Some people that design these archetype type models, they're like, you have to fit into one of these and it's like square peg round hole. I'm not about that. You are a human being and you may or may not fit in these archetypes, but these are very, very common. So have a look and see which ones resonate with you. Miss Clingy is our first archetype. This is Miss or Mr. or whatever your pronouns are, it still applies, right? I'm just going to say Miss Clingy and she, but if you have a different pronoun, then just use that. That's totally fine. It doesn't affect the integrity of this work, right? So use the labels that are appropriate for you. What Miss Clingy does, as the name suggests, she clings. She clings. She's kind of like some kind of like spider that like wraps herself around people. She attaches to people she likes very, very, very quickly. What she tends to do is she will get attached to someone she's just met. She will tend to be very triggered by, you know, he hasn't texted back or she hasn't texted back. And there's this kind of frantic energy of needing to be with the person all the time and being completely engulfed and completely consumed by the object of her affection. Now, this can come from a number of different places. It often comes from having an insecure attachment as a child. What that means is you didn't bond properly with the person that was looking after you. There was some kind of break in that bond there, which can be so complex and so convoluted, and I won't go into all the details here, but something has happened in childhood where you've not formed what is called in psychology a secure attachment to the person that was taking care of you. And so because that's the first person you formed a relationship with and that relationship was fractured, maybe through no one's fault, right? Through the fault of nobody, it could have just been circumstantial, or maybe it was more of a choice, whichever way, because that relationship was fractured, it actually impacts all of your other relationships in the future until we do this work and then we reprogram it. Miss Obsessed. Miss Obsessed is our second archetype. She's a little similar to Miss Clingy. There's some overlap. What Miss Obsessed does is she is constantly thinking, obsessing, talking about the object of her affection. She is obsessed with this person. Her thoughts are consumed by this person that she likes. She is every waking hour, minute, she's thinking, talking, fantasizing about this person. This person completely consumes her waking life. And this happens with every person that she is attracted to. The pattern here is obsession, right? The pattern is obsession. This can come from a number of different places, and I'm not going to patronize you and give you like the perfect answer, like it only comes from this place. It can sometimes come from abandonment, right? Someone you loved left really, really early. That can be they left through their own accord, they left through, you know, somebody passed away, whatever the circumstance was. And this can lead us to really become singularly focused on someone meeting our needs, because at some point the person we needed to meet our needs wasn't there. So that's often where the pattern of Miss Obsessed originates. Now, as with all of these archetypes, you know, really investigate this yourself and just journal on it and say, if this is me, like, where did this come from? How is this familiar to me? Who does this remind me of? Miss fantasy relationship is up next. And this also does what it says on the tin. Fantasy relationship is when you have just met someone and you are already naming your third child and where you're going to send them to school, right? You're already like at your wedding day, you're already imagining going on holiday with them, creating memories with them. And while that can be a really beautiful thing to actually be in the process of creating memories with someone, that's not what's happening here, because memories are created in the present, and presently you're not in a relationship with this person. And so this is a pattern of always wanting this person to be something that they're currently not for you. This is a really interesting one. I know this pattern well. All of these archetypes, by the way, were me at some point, so I know them all really, really well. With the fantasy relationship one, usually what's happening is it's a way of us getting our needs met in a way that feels safe to us. I know that sounds a little wild, and excuse me for being distracted. The dog's outside, Florentino, and I'm just looking at him, making sure that he's okay. He's sat on a seat outside. Florentino, are you okay? It's sunny. It's cold, but it's sunny. He looks quite happy. Fantasy relationships. So this is a way of us getting our needs met. If you think about it, when you start to fantasize about this person and imagine dating them and imagine going on holiday, what starts to happen is this emotional response, because our brains don't know the difference between what's real and what's happening versus what is pretend and what's imagined. So we start to get the same feelings as we would in a relationship without any of the quote unquote risk. So where this usually comes from is a fear of intimacy. We're really afraid of being close to someone. So we manage to get that need met by pretending we're in a relationship with them. Now, if this isn't your pattern, you might think about this and be like, oh, this sounds a bit far out. But actually, when you're in it, it's almost like you feel like you're on a runaway train. The train is running down the tracks and you can't stop it. That's how it feels. And it's because we're trying to get our needs met. And at some point that need wasn't met for us. So we're going back to this pattern of imagining. This may also be true for you if you spent a lot of time alone as a child and you started to create stories and fictional universes. Obviously, all kids do that to a certain extent. But if you did that as a coping mechanism and that became an escape hatch for you, then it could be that you're doing that as an adult as well to cope with some really unbearable feelings. So it's worth looking at that too. Florentine, hey, do you want to come in? Come on, what are you doing? Okay. Miss Drama is our next archetype. What is Miss Drama all about? Well, again, this one's kind of self-explanatory. It's when you find yourself in these dramatic dating situations time and time again. So what this becomes really is this, like, there's not really a nice way to say it. It's kind of an attention-seeking pattern, right? You always want people to be giving you attention because poor you, oh my God, this guy was perfect, and oh my God, he's got a wife and you had no idea. I mean, that's an unfortunate situation, but if you find yourself in these situations over and over again, then you are the common denominator, and it's worth looking as to why that is. Now, it could just be as simple as the payoff that you're getting, and the payoff you get when you're Miss Drama is that you get a lot of attention, you get a lot of eyes on you. This can sometimes come from not having that as a child, right? If you were from a really big family and you didn't get a lot of one-on-one time from your caregivers, this can be a way of you getting that need met now and getting a lot of eyes on you, getting a lot of attention, getting a lot of support, getting a lot of empathy. So again, it's a way of us getting a need met, albeit a not very healthy way, but certainly it's a way nonetheless. Miss Selfie, a personal favorite of mine in terms of patterns, because I see this one a lot and it's a very interesting one. Miss Selfie is kind of, okay, I'm going to explain it to you, then I'm going to give my assessment. So Miss Selfie is, look at me, I look fantastic, why wouldn't he or she want me? I'm the dog's bollocks, I look great, how cute am I? Tell me how cute I am, don't I look great? Are you sensing a pattern here? It's kind of like narcissism. Hello, sweetheart. It's kind of like narcissism in that we're thinking that we're perfect and everyone else is the problem. I don't understand why they wouldn't want me because I'm fucking shit hot, right? I'm a 10 and he's an asshole, right? Very narcissistic behavior, and also not very helpful because it's saying, well, the other person's the problem. Well, guess what? We can't change other people. But if we find ourselves in these patterns over and over again, it's worth looking at why that is. This can actually come from two different places. It can either come from being really neglected as a child. And when I say neglect, I don't mean it's like you're the child off, you know, the Oprah Winfrey show from 20 years ago who was kept in a cage for 5 years. That's not what I'm talking about. Neglect can be not getting your needs met, not getting your emotional needs met, being neglected in that way, right? Neglect is a very heavy term, but actually it's something that's quite common. If you feel like your needs weren't met, then there's an element of neglect there, right? And that's not to blame anyone. This is all very subjective anyway. But if you feel like there was a need you had that was overlooked through carelessness, then that is the definition of neglect. Another place this Miss Selfie pattern comes from is through the opposite. It's through having a parent that dotes on you. It's daddy's little girl, right? It's mummy's little princess. It's all of that. It's you're the only child. It can often come up with only children. Like you're the sole focus, and so you become used to having all this attention, and it builds up this feeling of superiority. Now, the reason this is so dangerous is because what you're starting to do is you're starting to think that you're the only person that has needs, and that's really, really damaging to relationships because you're not the only person that has needs. So the way to rectify this one is just to invite yourself to look at other people's needs and to see how you can help them to meet a need. Now, what's interesting about this one is there's other patterns that are the opposite to this. So Miss Clingy, for example, she's not actually thinking of her needs very much. She's usually more codependent. She's usually thinking about the other person, and she's completely engulfed by the other person and loses her sense of self. So these patterns are interesting in that they can be opposites to one another. The final pattern is Miss Lone Wolf. Miss Lone Wolf. So if none of these patterns have applied to you and you think, no, that's not me, I don't even need a man really, or a woman, I don't need anyone, I'm just doing me and I'm independent and I'm strong and I don't need anyone, Miss Lone Wolf might be you. Miss Lone Wolf is thinking you can do it all by yourself. Miss Lone Wolf is not asking for support, it's not letting people in, it's pushing people away, it's isolating. It can sometimes be under the veneer of this, I'm proudly self-made, I'm an independent career woman, I've done it all myself, I've worked hard. What that's really saying is no one's supported me, no one's helped me. And that may be true. And if it is true, that's really hard for us, right? That's really, really hard, and that's a very heavy weight to carry. Miss Lone Wolf is a little bit like feminism gone wrong, right? Like, I'm independent, I can do it all myself. But actually, that's not what this is about. We need support. We really need support. I remember this pattern playing out in my life in a very real way. I'll give you the example and let me know in the comments if this resonates or if you've had a similar experience. I remember I was living in Canada many years ago. I was getting some dental work done. I was getting some teeth removed, like all that stuff. And they said, look, when we do the procedure, we're going to need to give you some pretty heavy duty numbing agents and painkillers. We really recommend that someone picks you up after you've had the procedure done. I went, no, I live 5 blocks down the street. I'm not going to call someone. It's fine. And they're like, maybe you can call a taxi then. I'm like, no, I will be A-okay. I can do it myself. So I had the procedure done and I walked home. It was a boiling hot day. I was walking home. I was sweating. I had all this gauze in my mouth, and I had to stop several times. I thought I was going to puke. And I went home and I was just so exhausted and so tired. And part of me was like, why didn't I just ask for help? Why didn't I just ask someone to help me? Now, the origin of this one is a little heavier. Why would it be that we have this pattern of not asking anyone to help us? It's when we've asked for help in the past, when we were really vulnerable, when we really needed help and help didn't come. That can look like a lot of different things, and only you can know what that is for you. But when you've been really in a vulnerable place and you've asked someone to help you and that help did not arrive, or arrived and really didn't support you, or even worse, the help arrived and it was shaming, or it was guilt-ridden, or it was judgmental, what you do in that moment is you pick yourself up. You pick yourself up by your own bootstraps and you overcome. And while that's admirable, what that does is it starts off this pattern of not asking for help anymore. And what's coming up every time you want to ask for support is the memory of that time when you were vulnerable and you asked for help and help didn't come. And that can be a very heavy load to bear. So it's worth looking at what was that time when help didn't come, and how did you feel, and how can you heal that? All of this is about healing. All of this is about healing the wound. So the reason why I explained with each of them, this is where it comes from, this is where it often originates, is because once we figure out where it comes from, we can then heal the source of that. You all know my 3-step formula by now, I'm sure, which is what's the pattern, where did it come from, how do we heal it? That's the magic. That's where the magic is. And now you know what the pattern is and where it comes from. Now you can choose to heal it. And let me tell you, being on the other side of this dating drama, it frees up so much space in your life and in your mind and in your heart. And we've got stuff to do. We've got stuff to do. We need you. We need your help. And so it's really imperative that you heal this relationship stuff so that you can free up space in your life, in your mind, in your heart, in your energy, because we need you to do other things. And when we heal this, we can form partnerships that then help us to do the work we're here to do. We can't do this alone. Yes, I'm talking to you, Miss Lone Wolf. Okay, so those 5 patterns again. In fact, I think that was 6. Those patterns again were Miss Clingy, Miss Obsessed, Miss Fantasy Relationship, Miss Drama, Miss Selfie, and Miss Lone Wolf. I think that's all of them. I think that's 6. They're the main archetypes that I see. So again, see where else do you see yourself in any of that? Do you recognize yourself in those patterns? And if you don't, what would your archetype be? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next week.